Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Pitch Side podcast channel and the Pitch Side podcast. I'm your host, the HOD of the PSP. Like, share, comment on this video, of course. Most importantly, subscribe to the channel, enable notifications to receive all the updates that you want to head on this kind of content, of course, on the channel. Follow us on social media. I'm at PSP on Twitter, Pitch Side Pod on Instagram. You can listen to this on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any other platform, or catch it later on at www.webreathesports.com.
It is Friday, of course, so you know what that means. It is the preview of the weekend kind of episode here on the show. And we're going to kick off from the Bundesliga, and it has a couple of very, very tasty fixtures to look ahead into the weekend, and it kicks off on Friday as Borussia Mönchengladbach host Bayern Munich in a very, very tasty match, of course. For Bayern, it is an important, I think, kind of match, of course, after the hard victory against Mainz, the couple of shaky performances that that Bayern have put out in the last couple of games. Really, everybody started questioning Bayern's abilities to deal with things defensively in particular. It really looked not so solid performance from Bayern in particular as of late. For Borussia Mönchengladbach, of course, their form has been really woeful as of late, of course, with only picking up steam as of late with only the victory against Arminia Bielefeld in the last 5 Bundesliga matches as well. But for Bayern, of course, it was much harder. Draw against Union Berlin between the 4 victories that they had in the last 5. But the problem for Bayern is not that. The problem is the defense. Of course, they conceded in the last 8. They've been down in the last 8 matches, which is, again, it is a blessing and a curse at the same time. It's a blessing because it shows the character of the club, it shows the strength of the morale of the club, the sort of mentality that Bayern Munich have in returning and in coming back into these games, but also shows that you have a bad defense, and these defensive problems are well documented, I think, since last season, pretty much. Everybody knows that Bayern play with a high line. Everybody knows that they play a little bit advanced. They press a little bit advanced up the pitch. They don't exactly, sit deep and try and watch the ball, and that probably hurt Bayern more than anything expected. Now, is this game, for example, a banana skin for Bayern? Obviously, yes, it is. Borussia Mönchengladbach had the better of Bayern in the last couple of encounters, of course. Last time out, they defeated Bayern 2-1 in this fixture, and of course, fixture when they hosted Bayern, that is, in the Borussia Park, they defeated them 2-1. And with the injuries, of course, for Borussia Mönchengladbach and the absences as well, that the players that are ruled out from the Borussia Mönchengladbach squad, you don't expect them really, to not challenge, to challenge Bayern that much really. Lazaro, Marcus Thuram, Traore, Rami Bin-Sabini, and Jonas Hoffmann. Of course, Jonas Hoffmann returned to training and maybe will feature in some capacity in the game as well. Bin-Sabini has just returned. He featured in the last time out against Arminia Bielefeld, for 4-5 minutes. Really didn't exactly play a lot, but he might do today against Bayern. This game, I think, in my opinion, is all about the top table. It's all about keeping the top spot for Bayern. Definitely, definitely a game where they don't want to look shaky, because they know if they go down in this one, it perhaps might be harder than the 8 other games that they did. I mean, again, it is a double-edged weapon. It shows the character, it shows the mentality of the club, that they come back and they score and they win the games, but it shows that you have a bad defense that you need to work upon, and maybe Bayern Munich need to buy a centre-back in the transfer window, especially with the talks of David Alaba probably leaving and negotiating with Real Madrid and what have you. So this might be a big chance, I think, for Bayern to buy a centre-back and to improve their squad. The return of the likes of Kimmich and Goretzka and Davis to full fitness is a big boost, considering that, I mean, in particular, personally, I would say Kimmich is the biggest return of them all. Like, Kimmich is probably the most crucial piece that you could need at Bayern Munich. He is a player that guarantees you the control in the midfield, guarantees you to have all sorts of domination in the midfield, and alongside Goretzka they make an incredible duo. And if there's any problem really with Bayern in the last 8 or 9 games, the lack of control in the midfield with the absence of Kimmich and the combinations that were used. I mean, no slight against Tolisso or Goretzka or Roca or Musiala, but Musiala is on his own, and offensively, Musiala is great. Let's give him that. He's a talent. He's a gem of a player that Bayern have at the moment, and they should protect at all costs. Goretzka cannot do the job that Kimmich does. Kimmich cannot do the job that Tolisso cannot do the job that Kimmich does. Sorry, and with all respect to all those players, Kimmich and Goretzka is still the duo that I want to see on the pitch. And now with Benjamin Pavard's performance dropping, really, it looks like Kimmich is going to be refulfilling the role as a right back and putting Goretzka in the midfield on his own, or is going to be choosing to play Tolisso or Roca alongside him. Now, what does this mean, of course, for the table? Again, Bayern Munich need the win. Like, this is an easy answer as you would get. Bayern need the win. Borussia Mönchengladbach also need the win because they want to improve their position really on the table, and it looks like it will be a very, very interesting clash, considering that Bayern would think that they would have the gap on top of the table. They want to have a gap on top of the table before the big game in the Bundesliga between RB Leipzig and Borussia Dortmund. So speaking, of course, of that game, let's make a quick look at a quick rundown of the Bundesliga fixtures for this weekend. Of course, as you mentioned, starting on Friday for Borussia Mönchengladbach versus Bayern. On Saturday, it is Mainz versus Eintracht Frankfurt, Schalke versus Hoffenheim, Union Berlin versus Wolfsburg, Freiburg versus Cologne, Leverkusen versus Werder Bremen, Leipzig hosting Borussia Dortmund on Saturday, Augsburg, Stuttgart, Arminia Bielefeld, Hertha Berlin, Union Berlin, of course. Arminia Bielefeld, Hertha Berlin is the last fixture in round 15. Focus a little bit on the Leipzig versus Dortmund game. Now, this is again an interesting one. Again, this is a very, very interesting fixture to look ahead to in the Bundesliga on Saturday. I think I would watch it because I don't have anything else to do. I'll probably look up RB Leipzig versus Borussia Dortmund. Interesting game because it has some amazing duels, and of course, the big duel that you expect to see is Erling Braut Haaland versus Dayot Upamecano, which is, it's what's all football about, really. It's apparently the hottest striker in the world versus the hottest defender in the world. But obviously, there is more to it than that. There is a tactical battle that should be brewing between the two coaches. Julian Nagelsmann, in particular, is a great tactical masterclass. We'll see what he's going to do. RB Leipzig improved their defensive department of the game, but again, that comes with a price. That cost them the efficiency in the attack. They don't score a lot compared to what they used to do last season when Timo Werner was there. Like, goodness me, Timo Werner feels so lost in the Premier League at the moment, while his side are really doing well in the Bundesliga. Still the strongest defense with 9 goals conceded. Dortmund cannot even come close to that. They're double what Leipzig conceded already with 18. Of course, Borussia Dortmund this season have been, off the rail. They have been off the track a little bit. Lucien Favre sacked now, I think we can look over, gloss over the early parts of the season, but unfortunately the numbers cannot do that because the numbers hurt Borussia Dortmund. They are 8 points already behind Bayern Munich, and they would need a win like this and a game like this to win and to get closer to those top two. I reckon at the moment RB Leipzig are slightly better than Borussia Dortmund. I won't say it. It really looks like RB Leipzig are a much more poised and balanced team than Borussia Dortmund. And yes, Borussia Dortmund are full of talents. Like, again, I'm not going to mention the names here, but I need to mention them. Erling Haaland, Giovanni Reina, Jadon Sancho, Jude Bellingham. There's a whole host of talent in Borussia Dortmund that is really amazing. Yusufa Moukoko, of course, I almost forgot him. Yusufa Moukoko, but definitely that talent doesn't come at the right expense. Really, it comes at the expense of the balance of the club and maybe the balance of the team on the pitch. Most importantly, and that's why the result in some parts have been shaky, or there were some mediocre performances. Most than not for Borussia Dortmund. Reminder of the table of the Bundesliga ahead of the weekend, of course. Bayern Munich top, 33 points, Leipzig 31. It is 28 for Borussia, for Bayer Leverkusen. Dortmund with 25, Union Berlin 24, Wolfsburg 24, 21 for Borussia Mönchengladbach, Eintracht Frankfurt with 20 points, as well as Freiburg, Augsburg with 19, Stuttgart with 18 points, 16 for Hertha Berlin. 15 for Hoffenheim, Werder Bremen 14, Köln with 11, Arminia Bielefeld with 10, Mainz 6, and Schalke at the very bottom with 4 points. Of course, again, a rerun for the games in the Bundesliga that are going to be taking place on the weekend. Again, Gladbach, Bayern on Friday, Mainz, Frankfurt on Saturday, Schalke, Hoffenheim as well, Union Berlin, Wolfsburg, Freiburg, Cologne, Leverkusen, Werder Bremen, and Leipzig, Borussia Dortmund. On Sunday, it is Augsburg, Stuttgart, and Arminia Bielefeld versus Hertha Berlin. From the Bundesliga, we move to Serie A, of course, in Italy, where fixtures start tomorrow. It is Benevento, Atalanta, Genoa, Bologna, and AC Milan versus Torino. That is on Saturday. AS Roma, Inter, Verona faces Crotone, Udinese hosts Napoli, Parma versus Lazio, Fiorentina hosts Cagliari, and Juventus host Sassuolo. On Monday, it is Spezia versus Sampdoria. There is, of course, obviously a couple of big headlines to look forward in Serie A as well. Before we talk about Roma Inter, just going to be sort of reminding people of what happened in case they missed it. AC Milan lost against Juventus, and probably for the better, I would say. For AC Milan, it sounds like a perverse idea, but it is, I think, for the better for AC Milan that they lost against Juventus, because that is going to lift a lot of pressure on them, because the pressure of the media that says they are Paul favourites to win the title, and the pressure of not losing. Eventually, they would think of that too much, and pressure is going to get to them. AC Milan's game against Torino, of course, it's slippery territory here for AC Milan, because after the loss against Juventus, you can question, and you have the right probably to question, whether AC Milan are going to be in a good mood, or are going to be in a sort of a playful mood, or without pressures, or without any kind of thinking to do. Because obviously they would think about this loss, and it would give them time to meditate, sort of. This loss is going to give them time to meditate, probably what they're doing this season. Stefano Pioli maybe will try and fix a couple of things as well ahead of this game against Torino, because these kind of games could be really, really horrible, and they could cost Milan unneeded points this season. It's not, the problem isn't in the games against Juve or Inter. The problem are in these kind of games, against the rest of the table, where you might lose points that you don't need to, and in the end, those points end up costing you, Champions League spots or winning the league altogether. Again, Milan are still in the safe spot, really. Again, top of the table. I don't think that they're going to be regressing that badly. Saying, for example, they're going to be losing their position to 5th or 6th. I don't think so. I'm not seeing that happening anytime soon. I reckon at the very worst, they will finish in a Champions League position this season. Winning the Serie A is going to be a bonus, clearly, for them, but we're still going to wait and see the rest of the season what team's going to be given us. In other important games, of course, Lazio take the trip to Parma, looking to improve their position on the table. Napoli trying to get through that loss against Udinese, against Spezia when they make the trip to Udine and face Udinese. Of course, Gennaro Gattuso was very, very upset about that result and very, very upset apparently about the loss against Spezia. Clearly, that is going to be angering Gennaro Gattuso. He said that Napoli threw the points away. I mean, he said that they created a lot and said, they couldn't score and what have you. And obviously with the current problems for Gennaro Gattuso, I don't think that getting angry is the best thing for him at the moment. Obviously, take care of your health, man. Always take care of your health. Juve versus Sassuolo, that's also an interesting one on a Sunday. And Juventus now, with the momentum they picked from winning against Milan, I think this should drive them forward really well, considering they have the game in hand against Napoli. But Sassuolo aren't a small fish. They aren't the easy team to beat, really. If anything, Sassuolo are probably a harder team to beat than most teams in the Serie A, most clubs on the table. Yes, they lost against Atalanta 5-1 the other week, but they returned to the winning ways against Genoa, and they needed that victory really to set them on a good tone. For Juventus, again, it's a momentum booster against AC Milan with that victory in the midweek, and maybe that will give them the incentive to go back and compete for the SerieA title and try to snatch it again from the hands of the other clubs. This is a fixture again where Juventus really suffered last season. They drawn both fixtures. Sassuolo were the first team to take points of Juventus at home last season with a draw 2-2. Also, Juventus, Sassuolo almost defeated Juventus in Sassuolo 3, and when the game ended 3-3, it was an entertaining, thrilling draw. And probably had that been another result, or had Sassuolo won that game, maybe we wouldn't be talking about Juventus as the champions, and maybe talking about Inter as champions, or Atalanta. Speaking of Inter, it is the biggest headline of all in the Serie A, of course, with Roma hosting Inter. Roma, a side that is, low-key having a great season so far, like 10 wins, 3 losses and 3 draws. Yes, the numbers might not be that impressive really, 24 goals conceded, but they scored 35 and they're doing really well in the league. Like, they're really, really doing well. They're having a good squad, like a majestically good squad. It seems like they're finding their, sort of groove in the league so far. At the moment, their form has been incredible, I would say. As of late, the last loss was against Napoli, the 4-0 back in November, and since then, of course, they only lost once, which was in the Europa League to CSKA Sofia. They lost again to Atalanta. They had some bad results along the way, admittedly, but overall, I think they're doing really, really better than anyone would have expected. A win here could be very, very important, could get Roma into a title contention picture, which is something they couldn't say about themselves for quite a while. It's been so long since we saw Roma in the title contender pictures in Italy, and I want to see that. Of course, I want to see the Serie A race blown wide open, even extending to the likes of Sassuolo and Napoli. We'll see what happens, of course, but I will keep an eye on this one as well. A reminder of the table of the Serie A: Milan 37 points at top, Inter 36, 33 for Roma, 30 Juventus, 29 for Sassuolo, 28 for Napoli, as well as Atalanta, both having a game in hand. Lazio with 25 at 16, at 8th point, Verona 9th, 24, Benevento 21 at 10th, Sampdoria 20, Bologna 17, 16 for Udinese, 15 for Fiorentina at 14th, Cagliari 14 points at 15th, Spezia with 14 points at 16th, Torino 12 at 17th, 12 for Parma, 11 for Genoa, and it's a 9 for bottom of the table, Crotone. Finishing off, and we move on to Spain and round 18 of action in La Liga. Round starts today with Celta Vigo facing Villarreal. On Saturday, it is Sevilla hosting Real Sociedad, Atletico Madrid hosting Athletic Club, Barcelona making the trip to face Granada, Osasuna facing Real Madrid. On Sunday, it is Levante Eibar, Cadiz hosting Alaves, Elche hosting Getafe, and Valladolid hosting Valencia. And on Monday, it is Huesca hosting Betis to finish off the round. Again, a couple of headlines here in this fixture. Of course, you have Sevilla, Real Sociedad. It's an interesting one for top of the table. Real Sociedad, who really regressed a lot in the last couple of weeks. Really, they regressed quite frankly. I expected that. I said on quite a couple of occasions that I expect Sociedad really to regress. They're still fourth, they're still close, but I think it's time we say, the best they could do is guarantee Champions League spot potentially, or Europa League spot, because it doesn't look like they're going to be competing for the title or anything like that. It looks like it's going to be in Madrid. It looks like going to be between Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid. Speaking of Atletico Madrid, they face Athletic Club. It's an interesting one for Simeone's boys. Athletic Bilbao, of course, coming off the loss against Barcelona in the midweek, and the new manager, Marcelino, his start wasn't exactly good against Barcelona. The scoreline might suggest that the game was tight or close, but I don't think it was. It wasn't really that good for Athletic Bilbao. The scoreline again just probably saved their faces and suggests that the game has been tighter than expected, but Barcelona bossed them really, and they were the better side clearly at San Mamés. Speaking of Barcelona, they go of course and make the trip to face Granada as on Saturday. It looks like they might have found the key to have some success. Probably fixing the defense would be a good way to go as well in the next couple of weeks, but they seemingly found the combination to sort of win and work out around their limitations. The combination between Pedri and Messi is working wonders at the moment, and it looks like that will be the case for the rest of the season. Pedri certainly is going to be a starter now, looking ahead, and he adds a lot of energy and a lot of creativity to the side. So alongside Messi, he might be a good duo for Barcelona for the rest of the season. From Barcelona to their biggest rivals in Spain, of course, Real Madrid, who travel also to face Osasuna, and Real Madrid are also another side that are picking momentum. Yes, they had that draw against Elche in between, which sounded weird, but they were back to the winning ways. Last time out, of course. They were back to their winning ways, defeating Celta Vigo 2-0 in a comfortable game. As I mentioned, this fixture is one where I think they have all the advantage in the world. They defeated Osasuna in the last 5 games they had, including the 2 fixtures last season, so it shouldn't be a problem for Real Madrid defeating them, although they would miss Ramos, Mariano, Diaz, and Rodrigo as well. So that is going to be hard to deal with. Ramos, of course, with all the talks about the contract and the fact that he didn't extend his contract, and the reports intensifying that he's leaving the club and he's negotiating and what have you. It might not be the best time really to miss someone like Ramos, and this is a crucial period of time, I think, for Real Madrid in Laliga, where they need the leadership of someone like him on the pitch, but they will not have it, and they should deal with it on their own. And Zidane should find a way now. He found a way as of late, because Ramos wasn't just absent at this game; he was absent a couple of games before it. But they still found a way to win and to get the 3 points. Hopefully for them, they found a way again, and they will keep chasing Atletico Madrid. As we mentioned, the rest of the games on Sunday, it is Levante versus Eibar, Cadiz hosting Alaves, Elche hosting Getafe, Valladolid hosting Valencia, and as you mentioned, Huesca hosting Betis. A reminder of the table of the La Liga, of course, before heading into the fixture: Atletico Madrid 38 points on top, Real Madrid 36, Barcelona 31, Real Sociedad 30, Villarreal 29 at 5th, Sevilla 27, Granada 24, Celta Vigo 23, Athletic Bilbao 21, 20 for both Cadiz and Betis, Real Betis, Eibar 19, 18 Levante, as well as Deportivo Alaves and Valladolid. Getafe 17 points, 16 Valencia, as well as Elche on 18th, and Osasuna 19 in the table with 40 points and 12 points for Huesca at the very bottom of the table. So to finish off this episode, and after the preview of the weekend, of course, we're going to be making a quick round of the biggest news trending at the moment in the last 24 hours. Of course, Aston Villa versus Liverpool, the tie that is going to be supposedly taking place tonight in the FA Cup, is set to go ahead, but the Spurs Premier League game is in doubt. They're set to be without their entire first team. They decided to play with the under 23 sides, Dean Smith and the assistants John Terry, Craig Shakespeare, and Richard O'Kelly, all isolating, of course, as there were a big outbreak apparently in the ranks of Aston Villa because of COVID. The Villa hierarchy is hopeful that the youth players are clear of the virus. Of course, they've been tested. The Heath training ground has been closed down because of the significant outbreak of the virus as well. And what's that going to mean for the Spurs game in the Premier League, of course, which is supposedly going to be taking place next Wednesday? Of course, with the time constraint and the schedule, the flexibility is possible to reschedule the game, but this is another problem for Villa now. This is going to be probably their third game in hand. They're going to be having 3 games less than anyone else, which is a bad thing, and probably eventually it would be a good thing depending on what they do in their season. Man United completed the signing of Amad Diallo, the Atalanta winger, the 18-year-old winger. He's going to be free to play with his visa once his visa application is approved. The move is completed on a 4.5-year contract until June 2025, of course, with the option of a further year with a projected fee of £37 million, with the initial fee being £18.2 million. Man City owner Sheikh Mansour buys the oldest surviving trophy for £760,000. I don't know why is that interesting, but I'd like to talk about it. Zinedine Zidane might miss the next game for Laliga for Real Madrid against Osasuna. Apparently, according to El Chiringuito TV, he might miss it due to positive COVID case discovered in his close environment. Of course, he's going to be making a PCR test before the team to travel to Pamplona to face Osasuna. Zidane, he said negative. He hasn't had contact with the players. The results are going to be announced this afternoon for that. The last piece, of course, is FA Commission was surprised apparently by the Cavani's lack of media training. I don't know what a media training is. I mean, why are you supposed to be having a media training? The guy is a player, he's a football player. Why you should be having a media training? He's not going to be a commentator after he ends his career or anything like that. But anyway, the verdict of the FA revealed that the Commission concluded that it was satisfied that there was no intent on the part of the player or discriminatory or offensive in any way. Satisfied that the player wrote his reply in affectionate appreciation, but the conclusion, in the light of the player's high profile in the game, his inability to speak English, and the fact that he had approaching 8 million followers on Instagram, the Commission was surprised that there's no much training had been specifically put in place for the player by this club. Anyway, that certainly should be, a bad thing, a bad look for the FA and for a player like Edinson Cavani. Finishing off, and it is a transfer rumor, a transfer sort of report. Wijnaldum rejected a Liverpool deal to renew his contract and to extend it. Really, he's on the verge of ending his contract with Liverpool in June. He demanded more money. That's the story. He demanded more money. But of course, apparently the club refused that, so he refused to sign a new contract, and he's putting pressure on Barcelona, apparently, who have been interested in the player for a while. Ronald Koeman at the charge, of course, in Camp Nou. He is very, very interested in Wijnaldum. Between me and you, why you'd be interested in a 30-year-old player, even if he's Wijnaldum? Like, seriously, if Koeman is about putting the youth players and using them more, why you would buy Wijnaldum is a big question for me. That is it for the episode. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching / listening. Like, share, comment on this video, subscribe to the channel, of course, enable notifications to receive the updates of the podcast and other content on this channel. SeriePSP, you find me there on Twitter, PitchSidePod on Instagram. Listen to the podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you can get it from. Or catch it later on at www.webreadsports.com. I'll be there later on with the recap between Bayern Munich, of the game, of course, between Borussia Mönchengladbach and Bayern Munich in the Bundesliga. And until then, I was your boy, the HOD of the PSP, and you'll see me soon. Goodbye.